Here, what you eat and when you eat can dramatically influence the quality of your sleep architecture, the timing of your growth hormone release, and your body's ability to regenerate muscle tissue overnight. For example, a study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that consuming high glycemic carbohydrates too close to bedtime led to a measurable suppression of nighttime growth hormone secretion, a hormone essential not only for muscle repair, but also for fat metabolism, tissue regeneration, and cognitive health. Another study from Nutrients in 2020 showed that late-night protein plus fat meals disrupted sleep stages and reduced sleep efficiency, particularly in older adults. Why does this matter? Because whether you're trying to build strength, preserve lean mass as you age, recover from injury, or simply show up with more energy and resilience, your nighttime routine matters more than most people realize. So today we're going to break down 6 core insights based in neuroscience, nutrition, and hormonal physiology, all focused on one central theme: how to avoid sabotaging your body's natural muscle building systems while you sleep. You'll learn the one food that sounds healthy but disrupts sleep and suppresses recovery, how insulin spikes at night block anabolic hormones like growth hormone and testosterone, the surprising role of gut-brain signaling in nighttime muscle breakdown, the exact timing window when your body transitions from digestion mode into repair mode, a simple pre-bed protocol to enhance sleep quality and optimize muscle recovery, and the neuroscience behind why even minor food mistakes at night can lead to fatigue, cravings, and muscle loss over time. This isn't about cutting out your favorite foods. It's about using science to eat intentionally in a way that honors your body's internal rhythms. Because your muscle isn't built in the gym, it's built at night, if you know how to support it. Think about the last thing you ate before bed. Maybe it was a banana, maybe a handful of crackers, or maybe a healthy granola bar. What these all have in common is that they trigger a rise in insulin, the hormone responsible for clearing glucose from your bloodstream and storing it for later use. But here's what most people don't realize. When insulin goes up, growth hormone goes down. And that trade-off matters deeply, especially at night, when your body relies on growth hormone to repair muscle tissue, mobilize fat stores, and stimulate deep physiological recovery. Let's get specific. In healthy individuals, growth hormone, pH, follows a pulsatile rhythm, with its largest spike occurring within the first 90 minutes of sleep, usually during the first cycle of deep, slow-wave sleep. That spike is essential for muscle growth, collagen synthesis, fat metabolism, and immune system regeneration. But studies, including one published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation, show that when insulin levels are elevated, either from a carb-heavy meal or a sugary snack, that growth hormone surge can be blunted by up to 50%. Why? Because insulin and growth hormone compete metabolically. One promotes nutrient storage, insulin. The other promotes nutrient mobilization and tissue rebuilding, GH. They operate like opposing signals. When insulin is high, your body interprets that as a fed state, meaning we don't need to rebuild right now. This creates a hidden metabolic conflict. You go to sleep expecting your body to shift into repair mode, but it's still handling digestion and glucose clearance. Instead of your body entering an anabolic state, it's stuck in nutrient processing mode. Have you ever woken up feeling groggy, even after 8 hours of sleep? Or notice that you're still sore from a workout 2 days later? These are subtle signs that your body may not be getting the full benefit of overnight muscle recovery, and late-night insulin spikes could be the reason why. And it's not just about sugar. Even clean carbs like oats, sweet potatoes, and whole grain bread can elevate insulin enough to interrupt the GH surge, especially if eaten too close to bedtime. Here's what the research suggests. A 2007 study in the American Journal of Physiology found that consuming high glycemic index foods within 2 hours of sleep reduced nocturnal GH secretion by suppressing the pituitary's natural rhythm. Another study from Sleep Medicine Reviews revealed that insulin resistance, even subclinical, is associated with poorer sleep quality, increased nighttime awakenings, and reduced slow-wave sleep. So what can you do? A simple tool to apply is this. Stop eating at least 2.5 to 3 hours before bed. This gives insulin levels time to taper off, allowing your body to transition fully into its nighttime anabolic state. For example, if you go to bed at 10:30 p.m., try to have your last meal by 7:00 p.m. This gives your brain the metabolic signal, we're done eating, now it's time to repair. If you need something in the evening, opt for low insulin impact snacks like herbal teas, chamomile, lemon balm, a small serving of Greek yogurt, if tolerated, or a magnesium-rich option like a few pumpkin seeds. One more question worth asking yourself is my nighttime hunger real or is it a stress signal? Often what we interpret as late-night cravings are actually emotional patterns tied to dopamine-seeking behavior or cortisol dysregulation. By removing insulin-spiking foods from your evening routine, you're not just supporting muscle growth, you're restoring your body's natural hormonal intelligence. And if that insight resonated, consider subscribing. We're unpacking science like this every week, and I want you on this journey with us. Most people think the body simply shuts down during sleep. But in reality, the hours after you fall asleep are some of the most metabolically active and hormonally precise periods of the day, especially when it comes to muscle recovery, immune defense, and memory consolidation. But there's a catch. Your body can't enter this regenerative state efficiently if it's still busy digesting food. What's happening in your brain when this occurs is deeply tied to your circadian rhythm, the 24-hour biological clock that governs almost every physiological process in your body. This clock is regulated not just by light, but also by timing of food intake. Here's the key idea. Food is a Zeitgeber, a time giver that signals your organs whether it's time to be active or at rest. When you eat late into the evening, you're sending a message to your brain and digestive organs that it's still daytime, even if it's dark outside. This disrupts the carefully orchestrated hormonal shifts that are supposed to prepare you for deep sleep and muscle recovery. Melatonin, the hormone that signals the brain it's time to sleep, also has receptors in the pancreas, and it downregulates insulin production. That means if you eat when melatonin is rising, typically 2 hours before bed, your body becomes less efficient at metabolizing glucose. A 2017 study in Current Biology demonstrated that participants who ate meals later in the evening, closer to bedtime, had significantly higher post-meal blood sugar levels and reduced overnight fat oxidation, meaning their body was storing, not burning, fuel. This not only reduces overnight repair, but also increases fat accumulation and metabolic stress. Now consider this, muscle protein synthesis, the process by which your body builds and repairs muscle tissue, is most active when your autonomic nervous system shifts into parasympathetic dominance. That's the rest and rebuild state. But eating too close to bed keeps the body in a digestive state dominated by sympathetic fight or flight activity. Digestion demands energy, enzyme production, and blood flow to the gut, resources that would otherwise be used for muscular and cellular repair. So even if you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, the quality of that sleep and the depth of your physiological recovery is compromised if your body is still processing a late night meal. And here's where it gets even more practical. Studies show that shifting the timing of your final meal just 2 to 3 hours earlier can restore the body's natural anabolic signals. You'll sleep deeper, recover faster, and burn more fat overnight, not because you changed what you ate, but because you changed when you ate. Let me ask you, have you ever noticed that on nights when you eat earlier, you wake up with more clarity, less bloating, and more energy? That's not a coincidence. That's your body functioning in alignment with its circadian design. A simple protocol you can try: set a food curfew 3 hours before bed. Treat it like sleep hygiene. Dim lights and reduce screen time during your final meal. This enhances melatonin production. Limit heavy proteins or fats late at night, which require longer digestion. This small shift, not just in behavior, but in rhythm, can dramatically improve how your body builds and maintains muscle. If this insight is resonating with you and you're starting to see how powerful circadian timing really is, consider subscribing to the channel. We're building a science-first community of people who want to optimize how they eat, sleep, and live, and I'd love to have you be part of it. We often hear about the dangers of sugar at night, but what gets far less attention is how high-fat meals, even so-called healthy ones, can quietly sabotage your sleep and muscle repair. Here's what the research shows. Fat slows down digestion significantly. While that might sound harmless or even beneficial for feeling full, it comes with a cost if consumed late in the day. In a 2016 study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, researchers observed that individuals who consumed higher amounts of saturated fat at dinner had less slow-wave sleep, the exact phase where growth hormone is released and tissue repair occurs. Even more striking, those individuals experienced more nighttime arousals and decreased overall sleep efficiency, despite having the same total sleep duration. Why does this happen? When you consume a fat-heavy meal, think cheese, red meat, fried food, or even clean sources like coconut oil or fatty fish, your digestive system ramps up bile production and shifts blood flow to the intestines to handle the longer metabolic process. This increases core body temperature, exactly when your body is trying to cool down to initiate deep sleep. Sleep is a thermoregulated process. Your brain relies on a subtle drop in core temperature to trigger the descent into non-REM sleep. Eating fatty foods too close to bedtime creates a direct physiological conflict. Digestion raises temperature, but sleep requires a cooling phase. The result? Restlessness, tossing and turning, and fragmented sleep. Now, from a muscle recovery standpoint, this matters because deep sleep is where your body produces the greatest amount of anabolic hormones, particularly growth hormone and testosterone. If your sleep cycles are fragmented or shallow, these hormonal pulses are shortened or even missed entirely. And it's not just about physical performance. Sleep architecture, especially the ratio of deep to light sleep, is tightly tied to neuroplasticity, memory consolidation, and emotional regulation. A disrupted night doesn't just slow muscle repair, it dulls your focus, willpower, and motivation the next day, making it harder to sustain healthy routines. Let's bring this back to your evening routine. Have you ever finished a late night dinner that was rich in fats, maybe creamy pasta, steak, avocado with olive oil, and found yourself waking up more than usual during the night? That's not random. Your body was simply prioritizing digestion over repair. Here's the empowering part. This isn't about avoiding fat altogether. Fat is essential for hormones, brain health, and cellular function, but timing is everything. A simple tool to apply is this: front load your dietary fats earlier in the day. Breakfast and lunch are ideal for consuming healthy fats like nuts, seeds, avocado, olive oil, and fatty fish. These support steady energy, hormone production, and cognitive function during the active hours. Then make your evening meals lighter, protein focused, and lower in fat. Examples: grilled chicken or turkey with vegetables, a lentil or chickpea bowl with leafy greens, egg whites or cottage cheese with berries, if dairy works for you. These meals digest more efficiently, allow your body temperature to fall as needed, and support the transition into deep, uninterrupted sleep. And if you're thinking, but I love my evening almond butter snack, try shifting it earlier. Even moving a high-fat snack from 10 o'clock p.m. to 7:30 p.m. can improve your sleep quality without requiring major dietary changes. One final insight: you don't build muscle in the gym. You build it during sleep. And the quality of that sleep is deeply influenced by what and when you eat. If you're someone who lifts weights, trains regularly, or simply wants to maintain lean muscle as you age, you've probably heard about the importance of eating protein. But what's less widely understood and far more impactful is the timing of that protein intake, especially in relation to sleep. Let's make one thing clear: you do not grow muscle in the gym. You break it down. Muscle is rebuilt, stronger, and more resilient only if the right signals and raw materials are present during recovery. One of the most critical recovery windows happens while you sleep. Deep sleep is when the pituitary gland releases a powerful surge of growth hormone, typically occurring within the first 90 minutes of non-REM sleep. This hormone doesn't just help kids grow, it's essential for tissue repair, fat metabolism, and muscle protein synthesis in adults. But here's the key insight: if your body doesn't have enough amino acids circulating in your bloodstream during this window, the signal to build muscle gets missed. So what does the research suggest? A 2012 randomized controlled trial published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise showed that consuming 40 grams of casein protein 30 minutes before sleep led to significantly greater overnight muscle protein synthesis compared to a placebo. And in athletes who trained in the evening, this effect was even more pronounced. Why casein? Casein is a slow digesting protein that provides a steady release of amino acids into the bloodstream throughout the night, exactly what your body needs during those anabolic sleep cycles. But there's an important nuance here. Not all protein is created equal for nighttime consumption, and timing matters. Consuming fast digesting protein or pairing it with a high-fat meal can blunt this effect. Remember, high fat delays digestion, so a late night whey shake with peanut butter may not be as helpful as you think. The fats delay absorption, and if digestion overlaps with melatonin release, the body's anabolic signaling gets disrupted. Here's what works best. 30 to 60 minutes before bed, consume a light, low-fat, slow-digesting protein source. Think scoop of casein protein in water, low-fat cottage cheese, Greek yogurt if dairy tolerant, a rice and pea protein blend if plant-based. Avoid pairing with fiber or fats that slow down gastric emptying. Aim for 30 to 40 g of protein if you're active or trying to preserve muscle as you age. If you're smaller or sedentary, 20 g may suffice. This protocol is especially relevant if your last full meal was more than 3 to 4 hours before bed, which, as we discussed earlier, supports better sleep by not overloading your digestive system late at night. Let me ask you this. Have you ever woken up feeling surprisingly sore, even though you didn't train hard the day before? That could be a sign your overnight recovery was incomplete, often due to low amino acid availability during key hormonal windows. And if you're over 40, this becomes even more critical. As we age, we become less sensitive to protein signals, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. The solution? More targeted protein timing. Not more total protein, but smarter distribution. Now, if this type of science-backed performance insight resonates with you, go ahead and subscribe. Every week we dive deep into how your body and brain really work so you can train, recover, and live smart. Let's talk about a hormone that is both essential and, if mistimed, quietly disruptive to your muscle building goals: insulin. Insulin is not inherently bad. In fact, it plays a vital role in shuttling nutrients into cells, particularly glucose and amino acids. After a workout or a balanced meal, a spike in insulin helps drive recovery, replenish glycogen stores, and support muscle repair. But here's what the science reveals. When insulin is elevated at the wrong time, especially close to bedtime, it interferes with some of your body's most important nighttime repair processes. Let's unpack that. First, it's important to understand that insulin and growth hormone work in opposing directions. They are antagonistic hormones. When one is high, the other is suppressed. Multiple studies, including a 2004 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, have shown that elevated insulin levels in the evening blunt the secretion of growth hormone, the very hormone you rely on to trigger muscle recovery during deep sleep. Why does this happen? Because growth hormone is part of the body's catabolic cleansing and repair system. It kicks in during fasting states like sleep. When insulin is low, when insulin remains elevated late into the evening due to a large or carb-heavy meal, your body perceives that you're still in a fed state. This inhibits the normal nighttime surge of growth hormone, short-circuiting the very process that builds and preserves lean muscle. You might think, but I need carbs after training. Aren't they good for recovery? And the answer is yes. Timing is everything. Carbohydrates post-workout, especially in the afternoon or early evening, are beneficial for recovery and performance. They stimulate insulin just when you want it to drive amino acids into muscle cells, reduce cortisol, and initiate tissue repair. But when those carbs are consumed late in the evening, especially without enough time before bed, typically under 2 to 3 hours, they lead to elevated insulin levels during sleep onset, disrupting hormone cascades that regulate everything from muscle regeneration to fat metabolism. This doesn't mean you need to cut carbs. It means being strategic about when you consume them. A simple tool to apply is this. Consume your carbohydrate-rich meals earlier in the day or after training, ideally finishing at least 3 hours before bedtime. This allows insulin to rise, do its job, and then fall, paving the way for a clean transition into your body's natural hormonal repair rhythm at night. Here's a practical example. If you train at 5 o'clock p.m., have your post-workout meal around 6 o'clock, include high-quality carbs like sweet potato, rice, or oats, along with lean protein. Then, around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, if needed, have a small, low-carb, high-protein snack like casein or cottage cheese that won't significantly spike insulin. This keeps your recovery machinery running without disrupting sleep-induced hormonal pulses. And if you've ever noticed that after a big pasta dinner you feel sleepy but wake up groggy, it's likely because your insulin stayed elevated well into the night, preventing your body from fully shifting into the anabolic repair mode. One more insight, elevated insulin at night not only suppresses growth hormone, it's also associated with increased fat storage, particularly visceral fat, which is strongly linked to metabolic diseases and inflammation. So shifting your carb intake earlier supports both muscle retention and metabolic health. What's happening in your body is this. When you align your insulin rhythm with your circadian biology, you're sending a clear signal: feed, repair, and grow at the right time. That's when your hormones work for you, not against you. Let's talk about a common habit that quietly sabotages your muscle recovery, even if everything else in your routine is on point. It's something many people use to wind down after a long day, often without realizing the physiological price they're paying: alcohol. Now, alcohol is a socially accepted, widely used substance, but when it comes to sleep, hormonal balance, and muscle maintenance, it is decidedly unfriendly to your biology. The science is clear. Even moderate alcohol consumption in the evening significantly impairs muscle protein synthesis and disrupts sleep architecture, the very two systems your body relies on to repair and build muscle. Let's unpack the first issue, protein synthesis. In a 2014 study published in PLOS One, researchers looked at the effect of alcohol on muscle recovery in humans. The participants engaged in resistance training and then consumed either alcohol plus protein, or just protein. The result? Muscle protein synthesis was reduced by up to 37% in the alcohol groups, even when protein was consumed alongside it. That's a massive suppression of the primary signal your body uses to rebuild muscle tissue. But it doesn't stop there. Alcohol also impairs the secretion of testosterone, a critical hormone for both men and women when it comes to preserving lean muscle mass. Acute alcohol intake has been shown to lower testosterone levels for up to 24 hours post-ingestion, especially when consumed in quantities that interfere with liver metabolism. But perhaps the most insidious effect of alcohol is what it does to your sleep cycles. Have you ever noticed that while alcohol helps you fall asleep faster, you tend to wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. feeling restless or hot? That's not random. What's happening in your brain is this. Alcohol disrupts REM sleep and deep non-REM sleep, particularly in the second half of the night. This disruption fragments your sleep architecture, meaning you spend less time in the exact stages when growth hormone is released and tissue repair occurs. In fact, a 2013 study in alcoholism clinical and experimental research demonstrated that even low to moderate alcohol intake before bed significantly reduced slow wave sleep, also known as deep sleep, the same phase tied to anabolic recovery and memory consolidation. And when sleep quality goes down, muscle recovery, cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and metabolic health all suffer. Now, this doesn't mean you need to abstain from alcohol forever. The key is to time it intelligently and understand the cost benefit. A science-backed strategy. If you choose to drink, do so at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime to allow your body to metabolize the alcohol before sleep. Avoid drinking on training days where muscle recovery is your priority. If recovery, cognitive performance, or hormonal balance is a goal, consider using non-alcoholic alternatives during the week and reserving alcohol for rare, deliberate social occasions. Here's a question to ask yourself. Is this glass of wine or beer supporting the body I'm trying to build, or is it setting me back overnight while I sleep? It's a small shift in thinking, but it changes everything. You move from habits of emotional relief to patterns of long-term self-respect and alignment with your physiology. One final insight, alcohol also raises cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Elevated cortisol at night not only disrupts sleep, it directly breaks down muscle tissue and blunts your body's ability to burn fat efficiently. So if you've been doing all the right things, training hard, eating well, supplementing smart, but you're not seeing the gains or feeling rested, it might be time to take a close look at that evening drink. This isn't about guilt, it's about optimization. It's about giving your body the conditions it needs to thrive, especially while you sleep. So let's step back and bring this all together. Every night, while you sleep, your body is orchestrating something extraordinary, a symphony of hormones, cellular signals, and molecular repair. It's in these silent hours that muscle isn't just preserved, it's rebuilt, strengthened, and upgraded. But for this to happen, the environment inside your body needs to be right. And much of that environment is shaped by what you eat before bed. We've uncovered 6 critical insights today. Late night eating delays deep sleep and muscle regeneration. Your circadian rhythm isn't just about sleep, it governs your muscle biology too. Protein timing matters more than most realize. Choosing the right type and amount of protein, like casein, supports overnight recovery without spiking insulin. High-fat meals before bed, slow digestion, and blunt growth hormone release. Even healthy fats can interfere with your repair cycles if mistimed.